home for you. Redfin agents close twice as many deals as other agents, so when you find a home you love, you're not a step behind when it's time to make an offer. That means less watching great homes disappear and more focus on the ones you'll actually move into and call home. Redfin helps turn saved listings into real addresses. Get started at redfin.com.
I'm looking at a crash here. It looks like it just happened. EMS just arrived. They're trying to move them right now. 24 East just past Harding Place. Yes, it's already heavy out here in this section of Antioch with that traffic volume pushing towards Murfreesboro. Lots of radar. At least it was earlier. Down on certain sections of I-40 out through the Mount Juliet area. Expect more delays. 65 north. Just trying to get past Rivergate Parkway. Don't let a slipping transmission make things worse in your car or truck. If you're having transmission problems, come to Amco Transmissions in Lebanon. I'm Commander Chuck. You're on time traffic.
Premier 6 Theater on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Let's all go to the movies.
Check out what's showing at murfreesboromovies.com. Popcorn popped fresh daily.
Movies at the good old premises.
Premier 6 on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Rutherford weather.
Lows dip down to about 52 tonight under mainly clear skies. Lots of sunshine tomorrow. Highs level off around 84. I'm WGNS meteorologist Derek Height. Right now, 79.
We do it your way at Sir Pizza.
You can order Murfreesboro's favorite pizza online, sirpizzatn.com. Carry out and delivery for dinner tonight at sirpizzatn.com.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast on WGNS, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. It's your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports. Game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. I'm happy to be back, finally talking a lot more Blue Raider athletics. A lot has happened in the 2 weeks since I was last joined with you guys, but we're going to catch you up on everything you need to know about the transfer portal going on, what's happening in Conference USA around the league, and then, of course, baseball is back in action, getting to their midway point of the season this evening in Ruston, and we'll actually be taking you all the way up to the pregame preview with Dick Palmer out in Ruston. So thanks again for joining into today's episode. And of course, big thanks to our presenting sponsor, Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Right now, they have a new month-to-month pricing that's now available online with no additional fees. The Gold membership is just $25 bi-weekly with a $40 enrollment, or you can upgrade to the family plan for you and your significant other at $45 bi-weekly with only a $20 enrollment. The membership gives you access to all 16 Gold's Gyms locations across Tennessee, along with group exercise classes and childcare. Again, all that's included with no hidden fees. Visit Gold's Gym of Tennessee online at goldsgym.com to learn more and find a location near you. And if this is your first time listening to us here at the Blue Raider Podcast, make sure you find us on our social media outlets at Blue Raider Pod. We're on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course YouTube, where our live stream is today. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure you're following along. Here during baseball season, we'll be going on all Fridays ahead of Conference USA series and all of our live streams, so I don't want you to miss it. As far as what's going on across Blue Raider athletics today, men's tennis had a doubleheader today. They've already faced off against Memphis, where they fell in really heartbreaking fashion there, 4-3. Here coming up in this hour, actually, as we speak, is going to be a host of Bellarmine, and that'll be the conclusion of their regular season, because in a week from today, it is their Conference USA Championships that will be hosted here in Murfreesboro, so that's exciting news that they're going to be hosting, as well as the women. They actually start hosting theirs on the 15th, so those regular seasons are coming to a close quickly. Also of note, women's golf picked up their second tournament win of the year this last week at the Golf Week Springs Challenge down in Pawsley Island, South Carolina. Shout out to Isabel Johnson, who finished tied for 5th, Jillian Bowman and tied for 8th, and then the freshman Caroline Pardue, sophomore, Caroline Pardue, being tied for 10th. That is a top 10 finish for both Bowman and Pardue this year, and Isabella Johnson, who's really been the steady rock for that program all season long, getting that top 5 finish. So good news. That's a great win for them. Obviously, any tournament win at the collegiate level is great. I know that it also earns them into a berth of an invitational in the fall of next year. But of course, if you're playing your best golf as your spring season is kind of in the midst, you're getting closer and closer to your conference season as well. That's always really good stuff. So big congratulations to the women's golf program. Now, as I teased at the top of this episode, it's all about the transfer portal. And you guys haven't heard from me in a couple weeks, and I promise you I haven't been fielding any sort of transfer portal calls myself. I can promise you that didn't happen. But what did happen was a lot of people entered the portal, and a lot of people entered it prior to the portal even actually opening. And I know when we're talking about our hoops teams in particular, the women's basketball has been hit by the portal. 4 players, as I talk to you today, are currently in the portal, and something to keep in mind is that portal window is going to stay open until the 21st for the women, that is, or 21st for the men, and then the 20th is when it closes for the women. So I really hate to get so ahead of the game and try to give you guys a confident roster breakdown, or what does the lineup look like in October, early November, based on our conversation or this show today, because anything could still happen. And when we're talking about that in particular, again, with the women's side, we know that Macy, or maybe if you haven't heard, you're not following me on social media, then you did miss this announcement. But Macy Pfeiffer entered the portal earlier this week after an announcement video came out last weekend that she, along with many of her teammates, would be returning for next year. The only players that we knew on the women's side outside of Macy Pfeiffer, we knew before they ever made their announcement, was that Emily Monson was going to go. Savannah Davis, probably a somewhat of a surprise, but the bigger surprise is Yuhan Lin. I had also announced that she was going to enter the portal. So 3 players, 2 of which have starting experience. Well, even Emily Monson had some starting experience, but very limited playing time, especially in the back half of this year. But those 3 players are going to enter the portal. They made an announcement last week that everyone else on roster is planning on returning, and then we get the news after this Easter weekend that Macy Pfeiffer would be entering the portal. Obviously, that's a huge blow to the women's basketball program. In my opinion, a real cornerstone, foundational piece to what I know Matt Insel had seen this program looking like in the next 4 years. But at the end of the day, this is still a kid. 19 years old, I believe Macy is. She still has to make decisions that are best for her and her best interests. And I know a big part of the big selling point to her to transfer out is her proximity to home. I know that she misses family in Mississippi and obviously homesick. And if one of those major schools there in Ole Miss or Mississippi State were to come calling, it's hard to blame her for making a decision that best suits her needs and, again, her priorities. And I know a lot of us here are very winning focused, and we want to win a lot of basketball games, and Macy was obviously an integral part in winning a lot of those basketball games. So it's hard to really put into words how difficult of a decision that is for such a young lady to make. Obviously, she's going to make it, and good or bad consequences that come from that, that's all a part of growing up, especially in this new age of basketball and transfer portal. So I wish Macy nothing but the best, and obviously if the opportunity were to arise for her to come back, I would hope, much like we did with Courtney Blakely in years past, Blue Raider fans would open up with arms wide open and receive her. But of course, wish her nothing but the best. She's a great young lady. I think some people, my initial instinct was, how could you, after making the announcement that you would stay, but she has to do what's best for her. And luckily, I say, if there's any bright spot to this, we didn't wait till the last hour of the transfer portal. We knew pretty early in the transfer portal window now. So now you can change your plans if you're Matt Insel and the coaching staff on how you're going to recruit. Obviously, you're going to need to find some depth, because with Emily Monson gone as well, someone who would potentially play that small forward position, you're going to have to fill those shoes. Or if you're going to move Blair to that small forward position, now you have to really focus in on getting you a center, because I don't think they're ready with where Nicole is. So there's a lot of moving parts that come with this decision for Macy Pfeiffer on the Blue Raiders side of things. And so luckily for us, it happened early, and so now you can prepare or recruit accordingly for that decision. But To catch you up entirely, those 4 girls all entering the portal. It is my understanding that Elena Contreras, although that I had speculated all season long that she would be returning for a 5th year, is still waiting on that ruling from the NCAA that you can get 5 in 5 years. I know last spring, we thought the same thing, that they would rule on that, and we'd see Jalen and Anastasia Boldereva come back, but they never made the ruling on that. And I think Elena, although she could apply for that 5th year because the junior college rule, Diego Pavia rule, was made for people specifically like Elena, someone who got hurt prior to her senior season of high school basketball, had to settle for junior college, and so she missed a year of Division I basketball. Well, after that year of junior college, she goes to Kansas City 2 years, then comes to MTSU for 1 year. So the rules should be made for people like Elena, but she's gone to combines now. I think she's setting her sights onto professional basketball. So I think her status as far as being a Blue Raider in 2026, 27 have pretty much subsided entirely. So wish her nothing but the best, as now you can say that she has officially graduated and moved on. So let's look ahead. What does 2026-27 look like today? Well, you are assured of 2 signings. You've got McLean Bobo. She's the freshman from Tullahoma, 16.2 points per game. And then you have the freshman 4-star, ESPN 4-star, number 76 in the country, Aaliyah Blanchard, 5'11" guard from Hoover, Alabama, who just won another state title down there for the Bucks. And so that's an exciting addition, particularly from the scoring perspective, because both of those 2 girls can score. Aaliyah in particular is a very talented ball handler. I love what she brings to the table as far as dribbling through traffic, someone that can drive. Obviously, she can shoot. Bobo is in that same boat as someone that can just shoot. Very stereotypical Insel-like player who, again, can handle the ball on the perimeter and it has a winning pedigree as well. It just shoots the ball particularly well too. Again, 16 points per game. That doesn't just happen at any level. That's difficult to come by. So I'm excited about those 2 additions. What does the women's basketball team need at this point? Well, I already said it earlier. I think much like they wanted to get last year in the portal, they do want a post. They want a true post presence. And I had said last year that maybe a veteran was what they wanted because this team was all freshmen coming into this year. I may not be sold on that necessarily this year, although if you could get a more veteran post player, that would be great. But I think if you're Matt Insel and your objective is to take this core of players that you've kept for this 1 year and continue to grow them into that year 2, 3 down the road, you're probably going to want a post player that you can also grow along with this program. You don't want to change your starting rotation another season, particularly at the number 5 spot. So I would say a post player in general is ideal. I don't know that, again, age is discretionary. The other position is the guard position. I think if it's a point guard, I would have thought personally Kirsten Verhulst might be someone who, if she was a Rick Insel type player, but if she likes Matt, I think that she developed great, especially down the stretch for them, really did a lot better at limiting the turnovers. So that was an area that I thought maybe we might be looking into as someone who can handle the basketball well in high pressure situations. Kirsten got better as the year went on. I still want to see her make more strides in that department. So I don't know that I am currently sold on needing a point guard. However, a point guard that is a veteran would be very beneficial to this team from that perspective of someone that knows how to run an offense, someone that can stay cool in high-pressure situations, who can break a press a little bit better. I think, but if you have a lot of faith in who Verhulst is and, again, how much development she actually went through this year, she can probably take that next step. So really you're just trying to find a veteran guard that can kind of give you some depth, some starting depth in the backcourt. So I haven't had a chance to really dive too much into the portal on the women's side about who's available, who's out there, and I plan to get a big board out by this next week because earlier, like I said, this portal window is still open for another week and a half, and so there's going to be a lot more names that go in before I can really start to dive in the tape and kind of see maybe who the Lady Raiders are eyeing from any intel that I might have. It's my understanding that they're going to have a visitor this week potentially, so that's exciting news. But I would say if you really want specifics from me and a little bit more of my intel, give me a week as I really start to dive more into what the portal has to offer. And on that note, too, the Conference USA scene of it all, the women's side really has been hit really, really hard. And when we talk about the men's side over on the next segment, I think you'll be surprised at how steady Conference USA is held on the men's side in terms of the transfer portal. But on the women's side, not so much. We have 6 teams in Conference USA that have 5 or more players leaving the conference. Delaware and FIU have 7 players each in the portal. New Mexico State with the biggest hit with 10 players in the portal, although they did fire their head coach. Kennesaw also fired their head coach. They have 5 players in the portal. Sam Houston, who really had their mainstay this last year, headlining with how much consistency and returning production they had. This year, they are going to have 6 players in the portal. And then UTEP, who kind of on a regular basis has a lot of roster turnover, but this offseason so far also has 6 players in the portal. And something else, too, that I thought was interesting, there are 16 players that were on the first and second team all-conference postseason awards on the women's basketball side. So there's 16, 8 first team, 8 second team. There's 16 total players. 11 of those 16 players either graduated or entered the transfer portal. So the entire top half of talent in Conference USA is moving on, whether it's for graduation or for transfer portal. I can promise you over more than half of those 11 are transfer portal entrants. So it's just kind of a weird world that we live in right now, where especially in mid-majors, where that upper half of talent in this conference leaving is kind of, I would say, expected, which is why it was huge. You were able to retain Blair, who's a first-team All-Conference USA selection, and then Macy, who was on the All-Freshman team. So if you were able to retain any kind of talent or production on your team, it should be applauded, because that's not an easy task, not only for yourself, but for anyone in Conference USA to do right now. So on that note, you've got some returners coming back on that starting lineup. That should be excited. That should be celebrated. But you've got a lot more coming, hopefully, in this portal that's just going to bolster your roster with those that are returning. But again, you got to hang on for another week. We got to hang on for another week and a half until we can officially say who's going to be at least still on the roster ahead of the portal recruiting season. But we'll wrap up some more hoops transfer portal talks. I haven't said anything about the men's side. Their side is also intriguing because of how many pieces they're going to be missing due to graduation / portal entries as well. Baseball season, as I teased earlier, is at their midway point at the end of this weekend series in Ruston. We'll be talking a little bit about baseball. So stick around at the end of this break. You are listening to the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee.
Lace up your best kicks for a night of impact benefiting First Shot. Join us for the annual Sneaker Ball presented by Venture Express. Spend Sunday, April 26th with NFL Hall of Famer and Super Bowl MVP Marcus Allen. The event kicks off at 6 with a VIP meet and greet at 5. Reserve your table today. Call Coach Andy Herzer at 615-631-5312. We'll see you at the Sneaker Ball, benefiting First Shot on April 26th.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Hey folks, it's Chip Walters from Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, helping Middle Tennessee make smart moves in a fast-moving market. Whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring your options, you deserve someone who knows this community and treats your goals like their own. From first-timers to long-time homeowners, I'm here to guide you with clarity, confidence, and a steady hand. When you're ready to make the next move, start with someone you trust. Visit ChooseChip.net and let's make your 2026 move the right move.
Hi, I'm Wade Hayes, owner of Toots Good Food and Fun. I strongly believe that volunteers make a positive difference in the quality of life here in our community.
Susan Daniel with the DAR
is our Toots Outstanding Volunteer. Susan is devoted to preserving history and helping others learn how to trace their family's roots. Susan Daniel is the parliamentarian at the Captain William Lytle chapter of the DAR. Our Toots volunteer, Susan Daniel, with the Captain William Lytle chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution.
At Toots, we strongly believe that it's important for every one of our citizens to give some of their time and talent back into the community. And we want to honor these individuals with a Toots gift certificate good at any of our Rutherford County locations.
860 Northwest Broad Street, on Church Street in the Barfield area, in Smyrna on Sam Ridley, and Toots West on Franklin Road at Rucker Lane.
Well, good afternoon. Filling out paperwork on this wreck over here on 440 eastbound near Nolensville Pike. It don't take much to slow it down over here with all that volume pushing towards I-24. It's been slow. 65 south of town. They're up by Wedgwood in both directions. Just heavy on all the major outbound routes. Lots of radar scattered all over Middle Tennessee. Don't let a slipping transmission make things worse on your car or truck. If you're experiencing any kind of transmission problems, come to Amco Transmissions on Nolensville Pike in South Nashville. I'm Commander Chuck, your on-time traffic.
This is the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, 100.5 Smyrna, WGNSradio.com, and the Blue Raider Podcast YouTube channel. Now, back to your host, Jake Bolden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Talked a little bit about the state of affairs for the Lady Raiders basketball program ahead of their portal season, but we haven't touched on the men, so that's coming up. And, of course, baseball this evening is in Ruston, Louisiana. We're going to be taking you all the way up to that first pitch preview with Dick Palmer down in Ruston. But if you're tuning into us for the first time here at the Blue Raider Podcast, make sure you follow along on our social media outlets at Blue Raider Pod on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and, of course, where our live stream is today on YouTube. Men's tennis slowly getting underway here against Bellarmine, and, of course, softball is on the road in a Conference USA matchup up in Newark, Delaware, facing the Blue Hens there as they are still trying to get back into the Conference USA playoff scene. But baseball, again, we'll talk a little bit more about them at the end of this segment, but they are in Ruston, currently sitting in 8th place, just on the brink of staying in that Conference USA tournament. But no worries, they are not even to the halfway point technically. After the Sunday conclusion of their matchup down in Ruston, that will be the halfway point. So a lot of things look promising for them, and make sure you stay tuned after today's episode for Dick Palmer down in Ruston. But let's cap off our transfer portal conversation, talking about men's basketball. The men's side has been, in a way, taken by the portal, and I use that term loosely because at the end of this year, you knew you were going to be graduating a lot if you were all there for senior day. Oglesby, you have Trey Green, Kamari Lands, James Dent, Sean Smith, a lot of guys who have a lot of minutes played who are graduating. Well, this week, it was announced that Alec Oglesby and Kamari Lands are quote-unquote entering the portal. The only problem with that is they're, by definition, out of eligibility. Oglesby, for instance, has been in college for 6 seasons. Now, he's been injured in 2 of those, and so you could make the argument that he could get a waiver and get an extension, but 6 years is 6 years, and he's played a lot more minutes than a lot of people have. So there might be an opportunity, much like what we saw with Cam Weston last year, who entered the portal as almost a Hail Mary, that if someone's able to get him that 5th year, he would play somewhere else. And so I don't see Alec getting that extension, but he's just going to put his name out there and see where he could potentially land. And same for Kamari Lands, a guy that has been in college for 4 seasons, played 1 at Louisville, 1 at Arizona State, and then he's played 2 here in Murfreesboro, and he's been healthy. Relatively. I know he got hurt kind of in the middle of the season last year, but he's been relatively healthy for 4 seasons. I don't imagine that he has any eligibility remaining. However, if the NCAA, much as like we touched on in our last segment, if the NCAA decides to allow the 5 seasons in 5 years rule, then Kamari Lands could potentially be eligible. So just trying to see what he has available to him out there. Outside of that, though, guys that are not graduating but are leaving the program, like true portal entries by my definition, Torrey Alston and Chris Loof. I think Torrey Alston was probably someone that we thought was going to do it last year, stuck around. This year, maybe his market value was just way too high for MTSU to keep up with him. He did finish third team All-Conference USA, maybe not necessarily the honors that we all thought. Maybe it had more to do with how the basketball team finished that might have dropped that all-conference stock, but third team nonetheless. And then Chris Loof, based on the timing, almost feels like he might have, I'm just pure speculation here, but he may have been asked to leave. Chris Loof was a guy on this team last year that, again, we all thought maybe he'd stick around and we'd find a post player to kind of help him, and Luka was a late addition in the spring that we signed that we all thought, okay, well, these two guys can probably, divvy up a good amount of playing time. And so just with Loof leaving after what I would assume he had a starting position here, just leads me to speculate that maybe it was a time for Chris Loof and MTSU just to kind of separate ways. If you're Coach Nick McDevitt, you might be focusing more time and energy on developing Luka as your next starting big, or maybe if you're with all of these guys that I've already mentioned, like Torrey Alston leaving, Kamari Lands, I know tied up a lot of money as well, Sean Smith. If you're able to free up money and Chris Loof, whatever Chris Loof had added to the pot, you can go out and get yourself another big man. I think you're setting yourself up well. Again, I can't get too far ahead of myself, because if I'm sitting here trying to spell out what the roster is going to look like next year, I'm going to be setting myself up for failure, because this portal is still open for another week and a half. So any of these guys that I might mention in the next 5-10 minutes could easily be gone by the next time you see me next Friday. So, but with the backcourt retention that you do have right now with Javin Carter at point guard, MJ Whitlock, who really developed really, really well down late, playing the 2 and the 3 guard, and then you have some of these new additions that I haven't gotten to yet that are going to bolster up that small forward position, and then in particular your 2 guard position. I think putting all your eggs into a post-player basket, so to say, wouldn't be a bad plan. And again, maybe dismissing Chris Loof was a part of that. So that's the development. Again, I'll recap all that. Oglesby, Alston, Loof, and Lands are all in the portal, and then Trey Green, James Dent, and Sean Smith are all officially graduated. So you're losing 7 guys from your roster. And then also of news this last week, your associate head coach Wes Long is no longer going to be with the program. He has coached under Nick McDevitt for 9 seasons, 8 of which were here in Murfreesboro. It is my understanding that he is going to be taking a job up in Manhattan with Casey Alexander at Kansas State. Great news for him. There's a lot to say, and obviously that's quite the endorsement for Casey Alexander, the former Belmont coach, to take Wes Long with him up to a Big 12 job. So that's exciting news for Wes. Obviously a big part of the culture that Nick McDevitt has built here in Murfreesboro, and I wish Wes and his family nothing but the best. Now, as I was talking about these additions to this team, 2 freshmen got signed over these last 2 weeks that were huge additions for Nick McDevitt and company, especially when you're looking at the future. And maybe a lot of these mid-major coaches are going to be spending a lot more time in the high school ranks, because it does appear that a lot of these Power 4 programs are going to be just cherry-picking off mid-major teams after they've developed. So these 2 names, Aiden Bolden is a local guy. I actually went to Providence Christian 2 years ago before transferring down to Florida, but he had reclassified originally to the 2027 season, so he would go 1 more year in a prep school, but he was reclassified back to 2026, and that's what made him eligible to come to MTSU this next year. So he is signed with the Blue Raiders. Huge news. Again, 6'7". Really, like, I think my friend over at Go Middle, Shane Pickering, put it, he's just a great glue guy. When I watched him on that PCA team 2 years ago when they won a state championship, head coached by Kerry Hammonds, that he just does all the intangible stuff really, really well. He can score, he can shoot, great rebounder, really athletic. A great body as well. I mean, the kid's got muscle for his size and his age, well developed for that side of it, but he just does everything that you need a guy to, high energy, just does everything you need a guy to do. If you had a team full of Aiden Boldens, you could really get somewhere. And so having his signing, a guy that had P4 interest, come to MTSU, come back home, it's a huge deal. Also, too, you've got Landon Collier, the other freshman. He's a 6'6". According to ESPN, he's listed as a 4-star, but on all the other recruiting services, he's listed as a 3-star. But on ESPN's recruiting, he's the number 43 small forward in the country, coming from the prestigious IMG Academy. So that can't overlook what kind of, what kind of background this guy comes from. Kind of like a Kamari Lance type, played on a premier high school basketball program, highly coveted, had offers to other Power 4 schools, but chose MTSU over those. And again, maybe this is the new style of mid-major basketball, just kind of going all in on freshmen and guaranteeing them playing time. I think that Aiden Bolden and Landon Collier both in that 6'6", 6'7" range, playing that small forward, maybe even if a lengthy 3 position, that these guys can really add to it. But Landon from the tape that I've seen, is a great shooter. Obviously played a lot of really good talent in high school, being down at IMG Academy. So those two guys, I think, even though they're incoming freshmen, could make immediate impacts where the roster sits today in particular. But the one transfer portal addition that we've had so far for both of our basketball programs is the Division II from Walsh University, Quinn Barnett, or Quintero is his actual name, but he goes by Quinn Barnett. He's a 6'4" shooting guard where he averaged 14.6 points per game and shooting 41% from three-point range, as well as having a 1.5 assist-to-turnover ratio, and played on, again, a winning basketball team, number 9 in D2. They made it all the way to the Elite 8 this year. So having guys that know how to win, know what it takes to win, I think is a big part of a recipe for having a good culture in a basketball program. And Quinn being an early addition is great news for the backcourt. It does seem that the focus anyways, when I'm looking at Landon Collier and Quinn Barnett, is there's an emphasis on trying to find guys that can shoot the basketball. I know in my conversations with Nick McDevitt throughout the years, kind of talking about what does Conference USA look like, what does the future of this conference look like. A lot of guys this last year, I say guys, a lot of these teams last year really bought in on the defensive end of the basketball. So the team that stood out far and away was Liberty. Well, they are by far and away the best offensive team in Conference USA in terms of assists to baskets made. Great offensive basketball team. Can you have a floor where 4 of your 5 guys can shoot the 3? That's something that, again, that they had that not anyone else in this conference had. It seems like Sam Houston, who had a bunch of athletes who were really well coached by Chris Mudge, that gets you pretty far. But at some point, that talent just trumps, and that's where you're looking at where Liberty did so well, even Kennesaw State for that matter. I would say a team full of athletes after their top scorer gets out for a cheating scandal. I mean, they're well coached for sure, but having a team that can shoot the basketball well from the perimeter, spaces your floor well, obviously that's something that you have to buy in today's game. And I think if you're able to find the right pieces and budget your money well, you can set yourself apart. So I would look for a lot of these guys that come in for the transfer portal additions this year to be heavy three-point shooters, guys that have proven that they can shoot it really well, because I think that that's where Nick McDevitt and where Conference USA needs to go if you want to be successful. So it'll be an interesting portal season for sure, because you have so many pieces in particular that you need. They just need depth pretty much everywhere. So I think shooting is going to be an area that they're going to focus on a lot when evaluating talent for this upcoming year. And quickly, I was talking about Conference USA on the women's side. The men's side has been holding really steady. The only coaching change you have this year, FIU fired Jeremy Ballard after his 8 seasons. They hired Joey Cantons, who I think is a great hire for FIU. It's really hard to win in Miami just because there's not much buy-in from the community, and I'm not sure what the NIL budget is down in FIU, but I don't imagine it's up to par with the rest of Conference USA. But this guy won 120 games over 5 seasons at Daytona State. He won 4 conference championships in those 5 years. So, I mean, he wins in an area that I would say money isn't everything, but there's a lot of talent. So if you were able to recruit down in Daytona, Florida, you can recruit down in Miami. So I think that does well for them. And it'll be interesting if FIU can finally get over that hump. I think a lot of their obstacles are just internal. On the portal watch, though, only 2 teams have 5 or more players in the portal. Kennesaw State, I'm stunned by how well that they kind of keep their core players. They have 5 players in the portal. And then Sam Houston, another group that isn't known for their NIL budget, but getting rid of 5 players on their roster as well that are just strictly in the portal, not just necessarily graduation. So something to keep an eye on there. But I'll plan on, again, much like I said with the women, having a look forward, a big board, if you will, for them in the next coming week. So keep your eyes peeled there. Quickly for men's, or for baseball, that is, like I said, that tonight they're down in Ruston, 5-7 in Conference USA, 8th place. It kind of felt like the season has come to a screeching halt, but getting swept by Jacksonville State last week, who is getting top 25 votes in the country. You led for 15 innings in that 27-inning series. That's a tough blow, really, when you look at it. But the good news is everyone's been swept by Jacksonville State. They're 12-0 in Conference USA, so losing 3 isn't bad, but you had an opportunity to at least get 1 in Game 2, which would put you at 500. But winning that would have been, you'd feel better, but you know that you're able to compete. I mean, Jack State just blew out a top 25 Auburn team in a midweek game this last week. I mean, Jack State is no pushover. They are the real deal. So if you were able to lead them for over half that series, that should, again, give you the understanding that this team can hang as long as the bullpen can stay put together. And that's where they fell apart. The big news coming out, Drew Horn is still out this week. He's not going to be pitching at all down in Ruston. My understanding is he's week to week, so we'll really start to monitor that. When you look at this upcoming schedule for them, 4 of their last 5 series in Conference USA are against the bottom 4 teams in Conference USA, so the rough slate is over. The only real series that looks quote-unquote tough is Liberty, which is your next to last series at the end of the year. So how well does the Alderman being your number 1 guy, you have David Horn Jr., Gavin King, kind of mix it in that day 2, depending on what the relief pitching looks like in Game 1. And then you got Cole Torbert and Baranek in Game 3, who've kind of been your openers for him. So that's how do they hold up? And then does Lane Akers continue his hot start since the New Mexico series, where he was Conference USA Hitter of the Week? So a lot of stuff for baseball is kind of played out. They've rolled with the punches. I still think at 5-7 and 8 in Conference USA that they're in good hands. They're in capable hands of moving forward. So a lot of eyes in Ruston, kind of one of their last few real tough series, a program that is historically really good. So that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Again, reminder, follow us on social media at Blue Raider Pod on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And if you're tuned in on our live stream on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss another one of our weekly episodes. Thanks again to my producer today, Jackson Smith. Thanks again to you for listening to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and let's start with a Conference USA honor. Middle Tennessee men's basketball student-athlete Alec Oglesby has been named the winner of the Winter Spirit of Service Award for MTSU. That was announced by the Conference USA office. The award honors student-athletes who continuously give back through community service endeavors, good academic standing, and participation in their respective sports. The Spirit of Service Award is presented 3 times throughout the year, with Thursday's honorees representing track and field and basketball. Award recipients are nominated by their institutions. Graduate student Alec Oglesby dedicated his off-court hours to a number of events within the Middle Tennessee community, working with Adams Place, a local senior living center, assisting with their annual ride and slide, and helping residents down an outdoor slip and slide. He read to local elementary school classes on Read Across America Day and volunteered with Murfreesboro's Miracle League, helping local special needs individuals hit and run the bases and field as buddies with the baseball league. The Lawrenceville, Georgia native graduated in December with a Master's of Professional Studies, Strategic Leadership, and is actively pursuing a Bachelor's in Religious Studies with a focus in Philosophy and Religious Studies, and boasts a 3.70 GPA, earning nods to the Dean's List and the Conference USA Commissioner's Honor Roll. So congratulations to Alec Oglesby, the Spirit of Service Award winner for the spring. All right, let's talk men's tennis and more honorees. Middle Tennessee seniors Freddie Murray and Kareem Alamine have been named to the 2026 Conference USA Men's Tennis All-Academic Team. Alamine holds a 3.962 GPA as a psychology major and earned Conference USA Commissioner's Academic Medal honors 3 times, along with 2 Commissioner's Honor Roll selections and 7 Dean's List recognitions. Murray, a business administration major, has been named to the Dean's List and has also earned both the Conference USA Commissioner's Academic Medal and a spot on the Commissioner's Honor Roll. Speaking of the men's tennis team, they've been busy today. They played Memphis earlier today at the outdoor tennis complex, and right now facing Bellarmine. The Blue Raiders ranked number 48 in the country. They faced number 68 Memphis earlier, and Bellarmine currently is unranked. Women's softball on the road, getting ready to face, or matter of fact, they're playing the game number 1 of their series with the Delaware Blue Hens right now. The game got underway at 4 o'clock. The Blue Raiders entered the weekend on a 2-game win streak, most recently taking down Austin Peay in Clarksville on Tuesday, and they finished the weekend knocking off Louisiana Tech last week. So a big weekend for the Lady Raiders. Elsewhere in Conference USA play this weekend, Jack State at Kennesaw, UTEP at New Mexico State, Western Kentucky at Liberty, FIU at Louisiana Tech, and Missouri State is at Sam Houston. Coming up shortly, you will have Blue Raider baseball here on WGNS. Middle Tennessee on the road in Ruston, Louisiana to take on Louisiana Tech. Right now, Tech has a 6-6 overall record in Conference USA. The Blue Raiders just a game behind at 5-7, but everybody chasing Jacksonville State, who is a perfect 12-0 in conference play. Elsewhere in the league, Missouri State's at Delaware, Kennesaw at FIU, Jack State at Liberty, New Mexico State at Western Kentucky, and Dallas Baptist at Sam Houston. Blue Raider baseball with Dick Palmer, the old pro from Ruston, coming up shortly right here on the Big G, WGNS.
Next, another special News Radio WGNS broadcast.